Hey Bible lovers, I am here with Perry Ryan, and we are at the 500 Years of the English Bible Conference at Campbellsville University. And there's a really nice collection of artifacts in here we're going to walk through. So I'm going to turn this over to our friend Perry, and he's going to tell us about this collection of artifacts. I'm pretty excited. Let's check it out.
Okay, well, this is kind of divided chronologically, and start with some ancient Greek papyrus. This is not scripture. They are on display here because none of the original books of the New Testament have survived until today, and these are to show you what papyrus looks like after it's almost 2,000 years old. Fortunately, we had a lot of copies of the Bible made in very, very early times. That is what we have today. But
so these are good examples of what fragments of the scripture would look like today.
yes. The scriptures were copied by hand before the invention of the printing press. And monks in monasteries were responsible for many of the copies that we have. This is one of the oldest pieces that we have. This is from the book of Ecclesiastes.
And what language is this?
This is in Latin.
Latin, all right.
The official language of the church at that time was Latin. The original scriptures were written in two languages. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew, and the New Testament was written in Greek. But as time passed, the church authorized the Bible to be translated into Latin, which was the official language of the church at the time. So most of what you see before the printing press is in Latin.
And these are very beautifully done too.
Well, the tiny aspect of those letters is pretty amazing, and I've told some of the students that maybe a teenager was the monk who wrote these, because you'd have to have very good eyes to be able to write those. And this one is even tinier. This one is dated to the year 1280. This comes from Exodus chapters 15 and 18.
All right, nice.
And all four of these are French psalters written in Latin, but by French monarchs, French monks in French monasteries.
Right, so we've got the 200s AD over here with these non-biblical Greek fragments that would represent what Bible fragments would look like today.
Yes.
Then we move into the 12 to 1300s, which is the oldest Bible leaf that you have.
Yes.
And now we're getting into the late 1200s, moving into the 1400s, where the French psalters, but they're written in Latin.
Yes. Now this is a tiny little Bible page. By the 1400s, the monks were becoming more and more elaborate, and if you look carefully, the capital letter here is even in gold leaf.
Nice. So that would be authentic gold.
Yes.
Yeah, not like the stuff they use today.
Right.
Yeah.
The Bible was actually circulated in the Middle East and in North Africa. This is an Arabic leaf. It's so old that a lot of people, even modern scholars, are not even able to read this. But the Bible did at least make it into Arabic languages.
Yeah, and this was in the 1400s,
Yes.
so still very old.
And then in England, we had monks in monasteries also. This is an English psalter written partially in gold leaf. It dates to about 1470. This is written in Latin, but by an English monk.
Gotcha. So it's not in English, it's just written by someone
Yes.
who spoke English.
Correct.
Okay, now that is slick.
Well, unfortunately, this is not authentic. This is a reproduction of a page from the Gutenberg Bible.
So we're moving into the printing press now.
We are. In 1455, a man named Johann Gutenberg, who lived in Mainz, Germany, figured out a way to duplicate copies of documents that was a little easier than doing everything by hand. So he invented what is now called the printing press. And Gutenberg is famous for inventing the printing press, but he's also famous for experimenting with different alloys of metals, because people had already experimented with woodcuts, carving pieces of wood, dipping them in ink, putting them on paper. The problem is you can't do that very well for an entire page. And if you put a lot of pressure on wood, it splinters. So this is a model of the Gutenberg press.
Huh.
He learned to put movable type in a thing called a form. This was compressed. Of course, the type itself had to be inverted so that people could read the letters once they were printed. He also experimented with inks for preservation and different kinds of paper also for preservation. And fortunately, a lot of Gutenberg's works are still with us today. There are only about 400 copies of the Gutenberg Bible still left in the world today. They are considered priceless.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the very first printed words in human history were of the Bible.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Yeah. Just shows you the influence of the scripture throughout history.
That's right. Well, once the printing press was invented, many things started happening because books started being printed for medical science, for regular science, even engineering and law. Not too long ago, some historians declared the invention of the printing press to rank in the top 10 human inventions, ranking all the way up with things like the 1969 moon landing. So quite a step in human history.
Yeah. So one giant leap for mankind, huh?
That's right.
Yeah.
So we don't have a Gutenberg page, but we do have something pretty close. Gutenberg kind of went bankrupt, and some associates of his continued printing the Bible. But a man in Coburger who lived in Nuremberg, Germany, not too far away, started printing the Bible. He ended up making several copies. This is the second printing of the Coburger Bible, which dates to 1479.
And this will be in Latin.
This is still in Latin. This one come from the book of Isaiah.
Okay.
And then another printer in Cologne, Germany, started printing the Bible, again in Latin. This one dates to 1480, and this printer's name was Goetz. And then the printing press continued to expand even into Switzerland. Two printers named Johann Froben and Johann Petri printed what's known as the Poor Man's Bible. Bibles up to this point were extremely expensive, and this was probably one of the first Bibles that ordinary people could afford, still in Latin.
And it looks a little smaller than the others.
It is. Yeah, as time passed, the printers were able to reduce the size of typeface, and pages were then smaller and they were less expensive because paper and printing was still pricey.
Yeah. And over here, we're moving into Erasmus and Stephanus, so we're moving into the Textus Receptus era
Yes.
of the scripture,
Yes,
right?
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, a Catholic priest who lived in the Netherlands wanted to print the Bible in Greek, which was the original language of the New Testament. But at the time, the governments of Europe, as well as the church, forbade the Bible to be printed in any other language other than Hebrew, Greek, or Latin. So he was very careful and followed the law as well as the church policy, but he printed the New Testament in Greek in this column, and then on the right column he printed it in Latin. So this particular page came from the book of Corinthians.
So this is like a parallel Bible.
It is.
So we have the Greek on this side, the Latin on this side. Is this original?
It is original.
Wow, check that out.
So this was his first printing in 1516. His second printing with some modifications was done in 1519.
So would this be considered the Textus Receptus?
It is.
Okay, so it would have Latin on one side. You just taught me something I didn't know.
Yeah, and done to comply, as we mentioned, with the law as it existed. This particular page is interesting because it came from the 1519 edition, and another priest named Martin Luther got a hold of this New Testament and read the Greek, and he was one of the people who felt like that the Bible should be available in the languages of the local people. So eventually he defied the church as well as government rules and used the Greek in this publication to create the Martin Luther Bible. one of the first of its kind in a local language.
So you could say Erasmus was kind of the powder to the keg that caused the Protestant Reformation.
He was indeed.
Yeah. So the 1516, then the 1519.
Well, then he continued to revise his publication. There was a 1522 printing, and this one, interestingly enough, was acquired by an Englishman by the name of William Tyndale, who had the same thought as Martin Luther, and he felt that the Bible should be printed in English.
Yeah.
So he used that version for the very first printed English Bibles.
So Erasmus's influence is probably grossly underestimated when it comes to Bible translation.
Yes. Yeah. Well known in some circles, less known by most of Christianity, I would say. One of the printers in Paris, France, was a guy named Robert Stevens. In French, that's Robert Estienne. In Latin, which is what he would use in his Bibles, it was Robertus Stephanus. Mm-hmm. And he printed a very, very accurate Greek New Testament. And
based on the Textus Receptus.
Yes.
And the Stephanus is what is used for the King James, is that correct?
Yes, it was used as one of the primary resources for translating the Bible into the King James.
So when we talk about the King James is based off the Textus Receptus, we're talking about through this lineage up to the 1550 Stephanus.
That's right.
Pretty fascinating.
Well, Stephanus continued printing, and the next year, in 1551, he printed this tiny little version, and this is quite an accomplishment in printing because it's got three tiny little columns. The left is Latin, the middle is Greek, the right, the language that Jesus spoke, which was Aramaic, Hebrew. And this Bible is incredibly important because it's the very first Bible to use a numbering system for verses. And we still use the Stephanus numbering system in modern numbering of verses.
So this is the birth of Bible verses.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
So all these other Bibles that you've seen so far might have had chapter headings. They did not have verse numbers.
Interesting.
Well, then Martin Luther came along and printed the first New Testament in 1522, and there are only a few versions of that still in existence.
Yep.
In 1523, the very next year, he printed the Pentateuch, which is the first five, it's a Greek word for the first 5 books of the Old Testament, starting with Genesis, ending through Deuteronomy. And this on one side says in German, the second book of, and then you turn it over, and this is Moses, all in German. So this is one of the first printings of the Bible outside of Hebrew or Latin or Greek. Then in 3 more years, he printed the New Testament. This is actually his second printing, a little bigger. So this is the second printing of Scripture in the German language.
These are pocket size. These are little guys here.
Yes. Well, and then we get even more recent with the book of Mark. He printed the New Testament in 1529 again. And the complete Bible, at least Martin Luther's translation, was not printed until the year 1534.
Right.
But this is the first printing, first edition of the complete German Bible. This comes from the book of Esther.
Right, and you were telling me that in modern terms we call these drop caps, but that's not what they were always called.
That's right. What we now call drop caps probably originates from historic writings, and these were at the time just called woodcuts. Woodcuts.
So they were basically cut from wood and stamped.
Well, the originals would have been made from wood, yes, and they may have had developed eventually a process where the wood could be used to mold a more metallic type substance, because wood would splinter if you try to use it in a printing press.
Yeah. Nice. So now we've got some actual books here.
This is from the book of Jeremiah. You probably recognize the name. It was printed in 1550 in Venice.
And is this an entire Bible?
It is an entire volume of a multi-volume set. This continues to be Latin and probably was used in churches as a pulpit Bible to be read from.
Gosh, and that's just part. So if you had the whole thing, it would have been massive.
Yes, this particular publication probably had 3 or 4 volumes.
Goodness, really neat. And the French Geneva Bible.
Well, we need to talk about the Geneva Bible. The French Geneva Bible was as important to French Protestants as the English Geneva Bible was to English Protestants. French Protestants were sometimes called Huguenots, and some people in the United States are descended from Huguenots. The Bible was printed in Latin in much smaller print in the 1500s. This one is from 1567.
So we have the French Geneva Bible here, and then this would be a really early version of the Latin Vulgate.
Yes.
Nice.
This Bible is also a Stephanus Bible. It only contains the Gospels and the book of Acts.
Little bitty guy there too.
And it's in Greek. It's owned by one of the Campbellsville University professors here,
Okay.
Dr. Huntgen, professor of...
And the Breeches Bible.
Yes, named because in Genesis there was a notation about Adam and Eve making breeches to wear after they discovered they were not wearing clothes.
Right.
But this one dates to the year 1599. Queen Elizabeth would have been Queen of England at that time.
So a super early English Bible.
And this one's 1602. Also, she died in about the time that this Bible was published, and so that's one of the last Geneva Bibles published during the reign of Queen Elizabeth.
And these footnotes were a point of controversy.
They were. The Geneva Bible itself was kind of controversial because disputes on how some of the English words were being translated from the original Hebrew and the original Greek.
And the Biblia Sacra, that's the Latin, right?
Yeah, this Bible was associated with Theodore Beza, who oversaw its printing. Theodore Beza was a close associate of John Calvin.
Okay.
Of course, John Calvin is one of the primary movers and shakers behind the Presbyterian denomination.
This is an indulgence, like
Yes.
not quite a modern one, but a somewhat modern one.
Yeah, in 1938, Pope Pius XI issued this indulgence to the benefit of a woman named Bertha Dyer for service to the Catholic Church.
And they still issue indulgences today, something
do.
that is often unknown.
Well, and I might point out in history, Martin Luther was a Catholic priest who opposed indulgences. He didn't think that the Pope had the authority to make a declaration whether people would go to purgatory or heaven, and apparently that's still a controversy to this day between Catholics and Protestants.
I'd say so. And then, okay, here we go. Now we're moving into the King James. And this is this actually a 1611?
It is.
Is it a first edition?
It is a first edition. I can tell you the King James Bible was the most published, the most printed book in all of human history.
Yeah. So that was a pretty fascinating little interview with my new friend Perry. And what's really interesting is that was his own personal collection other than the Breeches Bible. Everything else is his collection. That's not even all of it. There's so much more. I'm here at the beautiful Campbellsville University, just really enjoying my day with this 500 years of the English Bible. This is the first part. Be looking for part 2 of this, where he shows off a lot more of his collection on the other side. And I'm really hoping to get him at my church where he can show off his full collection soon. And if I get that to happen, I'll let you know. God bless you. Keep calm. Jesus on. This is definitely more than a nickel's worth.